Sometimes the hardest thing a mother can do is admit she can't afford what her child needs. Emily Carter never imagined those words would describe her life. She stood beneath the bright fluorescent lights of a grocery store just 10 minutes before closing, her fingers wrapped tightly around a single can of baby formula. The metal container felt heavier than it should have, not because of its weight, but because of everything it represented. Rent had been due 3 days ago. Her checking account was nearly empty. The part-time shifts she worked at a local diner barely covered groceries. Yet none of that hurt as much as hearing the soft voice beside her. "Mommy, are we taking the milk home?" 3-year-old Noah looked up at her with trusting blue eyes. Emily forced a smile. "I'm trying, sweetheart." She stepped toward the customer service counter. Her heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear the hum of refrigerators nearby. The young employee behind the register scanned the receipt from her earlier purchase attempt. A few buttons clicked. Then came the question Emily had been dreading. "So you want to return it?" For a second, she couldn't answer. The words caught in her throat. Around her, shopping carts rolled past. Conversations drifted through the aisles. Nobody knew her story. Nobody knew she had spent the last 20 minutes sitting in her car, hoping a miracle deposit might appear in her bank account. Nobody knew she had checked her balance 6 times before walking back inside. Emily swallowed hard. "Yes," she whispered. "I need to return it." The employee nodded and reached for the formula. Noah's small hand immediately grabbed her sleeve. "But Mommy, that's for me." The innocent question cut deeper than any insult ever could. Emily knelt beside him, brushing a strand of blonde hair from his forehead. "I know, buddy." Her voice trembled. "I know." A few nearby customers glanced over. Some looked sympathetic. Others simply stared. Emily felt heat rise into her cheeks. She wanted to disappear. She wanted the floor to open beneath her feet. Most of all, she wanted her son to never remember this moment. The employee processed the return. A receipt slowly. Printed from the machine. The formula was no longer hers. Noah watched the can being placed behind the counter. Confusion filled his face. Emily looked away before the tears gathering in her eyes could fall. Then something unexpected happened. The front door slid open. Several people turned toward the entrance. Expensive shoes crossed the polished floor. A man in a tailored navy suit stepped inside, speaking briefly into his phone. Confidence seemed to follow him like a shadow. Emily barely noticed him at first. Why would she? Wealthy strangers entered stores every day. This one should have been no different. Yet seconds later, as she signed the return receipt with shaking fingers, a deep voice echoed from only a few feet away. "Excuse me." Emily froze. The sound hit her like a memory she had spent years trying to bury. Slowly, almost afraid to look, she lifted her eyes. And somewhere nearby, fate was about to change everything. Emily's breath caught in her chest. That voice. She knew it instantly. 5 years could pass. 1,000 sleepless nights could blur memories. Still, some voices never left you. Slowly, she turned her head. The moment her eyes met his, the world seemed to go silent. Ryan Whitmore stood only a few feet away. The same dark hair, the same sharp features, the same steady presence that had once made her feel safe. For a second, neither of them moved. Ryan stared at her as if he were looking at a ghost. His phone remained frozen in his hand. The call had ended, yet he did not seem to notice. Emily's heart pounded harder. Of all the places, of all the days, why now? Why here? She lowered her gaze immediately. The last thing she wanted was for him to see her standing at a customer service counter, returning baby formula because she could not afford it. Shame wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. She reached for Noah's hand. "Come on, sweetheart," she said softly. "We should go." Noah nodded, though confusion still lingered across his small face. Before they could take a step, the employee behind the counter spoke. "Ma'am, your refund receipt." Emily accepted the paper quickly. Her fingers trembled. Ryan's eyes dropped to the receipt. Then to the empty space where the formula had been. Understanding flickered across his expression. He was not a man who missed details. He saw the embarrassment in her posture. He saw the exhaustion beneath her eyes. He saw the worn cuffs of her coat. Most of all, he saw how hard she was trying to hold herself together. "Emily," he finally said. Hearing her name from him felt strange. Familiar. Painful. She swallowed. "Hello, Ryan." The words sounded distant, almost belonging to someone else. Several customers nearby glanced between them. Ryan seemed completely unaware. His attention never left her face. I thought. He stopped. I thought you moved away. Emily forced a small smile. Life changes. It was the safest answer she could give. She was not ready to explain anything. Not here. Not now. Noah tugged gently on her sleeve. Mommy, who is he? Ryan's gaze shifted downward. For the first time, he truly noticed the little boy standing beside her. Something changed in his expression. Curiosity appeared. Then confusion. Noah looked up innocently. His blonde hair caught the bright overhead lights. His blue eyes seemed unusually familiar. Ryan stared a moment too long. Emily felt a sudden knot form in her stomach. Fear crept into her chest. She knew that look. Ryan's mind was working, connecting pieces, asking questions. Questions she had spent years avoiding. He is my son, Emily said quickly. Ryan nodded slowly, but his eyes remained fixed on the child. Noah smiled politely. It was a simple smile, a normal smile. Yet Ryan's face went strangely still, because he had seen that exact smile before. Every morning, in the mirror, Emily felt the color drain from her face the moment she noticed where Ryan was looking. Noah stood quietly beside her, unaware of the storm building around him. Children had a way of living entirely in the present. They did not see tension. They did not recognize old wounds. They simply trusted the people they loved. Noah squeezed her hand and leaned gently against her leg. Emily's protective instincts immediately took over. We really should go, she said, keeping her voice calm. Ryan blinked as if waking from a dream. Of course. Yet he did not move. His attention shifted between Emily and the little boy beside her. Something about the child had unsettled him. Emily could see it. She knew Ryan better than almost anyone once had. She recognized the expression that appeared whenever his mind locked onto a problem he could not solve. The same expression had helped him build a billion-dollar company. The same expression had once convinced her that nothing could ever come between them. She hated that she still remembered details like that. Take care of yourself, Emily, Ryan finally said. She nodded politely. You too. Then she guided Noah toward the exit. Every step felt heavier than the last. The automatic doors opened. Cool evening air rushed inside. Emily almost sighed with relief. She had escaped. At least that was what she told herself. Across the parking lot, she carefully buckled Noah into his car seat. Her aging sedan sat beneath a flickering light pole. The paint had faded years ago. The engine had over 180,000 miles on it. Still, it was hers. It kept them moving forward. Mommy, Noah asked softly from the back seat. Why did that man keep looking at me? Emily froze for a second. She stared through the windshield before answering. Sometimes people think they know someone. Noah considered that explanation seriously, as children often did. Then he nodded. He seemed sad. The comment surprised her. Sad? Noah shrugged. His eyes looked sad. Emily looked away. Children notice things adults missed. She started the engine. It rattled before finally turning over. As she pulled out of the parking lot, memories she had fought for years began creeping back. There had been a time when Ryan's eyes never looked sad. Back then, they were newly married. They lived in a small apartment while he worked endless hours building his company. Neither of them had much money. They shared takeout dinners on the living room floor. They dreamed together, planned together, laughed together. Success came later. So did the problems. As Ryan's company grew, so did the pressure surrounding him. Investors demanded more. Executives whispered opinions. Friends became advisors. Advisors became influences. Eventually, too many voices entered their marriage. Emily tightened her grip on the steering wheel. Some memories still hurt. The worst part was not the divorce itself. The worst part was remembering how quickly trust had disappeared. One misunderstanding. One accusation. One terrible decision. Everything collapsed after that. Her phone suddenly vibrated in the cup holder. Emily glanced down at the screen while waiting at a red light. An unknown number appeared. Her stomach immediately tightened. Very few people had her number. Slowly, she answered. Hello. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a familiar voice spoke. Emily, I think we need to talk. Emily tightened her grip on the steering wheel. For a moment, she considered ending the call. 5 years ago, she would have answered Ryan without hesitation. Back then, he had been the person she trusted most in the world. Now his voice felt like a door opening to a chapter she had fought hard to leave behind. The traffic light turned green. She slowly drove forward. I do not think there is anything left to talk about, she said quietly. Silence lingered on the line. Then Ryan spoke again. I disagree. His voice sounded different. Less confident. Less certain. That alone unsettled her. Ryan Whitmore had always seemed sure of everything. Sure of his decisions. Sure of his future. Sure of the people around him. Especially on the day their marriage ended. Emily pushed the thought away. Ryan, it has been 5 years. I know. We both moved on. Another pause followed. Did we? Emily glanced into the rearview mirror. Noah sat peacefully in the back seat, looking out the window at passing streetlights. She could not have this conversation with him listening. Not now. Not ever if she could help it. What do you want? She finally asked. Ryan exhaled slowly. I want to understand why you disappeared. Emily almost laughed. The question felt unbelievable. For years, she had replayed that final week of their marriage. Every conversation, every misunderstanding, every painful word. Yet hearing him ask that now made something inside her ache. You already know why, she replied. No, I thought I did. His answer caught her off guard. She pulled into the parking lot of her apartment complex and parked near the entrance. The building was old but clean. Nothing fancy, just a place she could afford. Ryan continued speaking before she could respond. When I saw you tonight, I realized there are things that never made sense. Emily stared through the windshield. Her heartbeat quickened. She did not want to revisit the past. The past had cost her too much already. Ryan, that was a long time ago. Not for me. The honesty in his voice surprised her. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Noah leaned forward from the back seat. Mommy, are we home? Emily turned and smiled gently. Almost, sweetheart. Ryan heard the exchange. She knew he did because the silence on the line immediately changed. It grew heavier, more focused. How old is your son? He asked. Emily's stomach dropped. There it was. The question she had feared since the moment he looked at Noah in the grocery store. Her pulse raced. Ryan, how old is he? She closed her eyes briefly. There was no way to avoid it. Not forever. He turned 3 last month. The line went completely silent. No response. No movement. Just silence. Then she heard something she had never expected from Ryan Whitmore. A shaky breath. As if a calculation had just formed in his mind. As if years of assumptions were suddenly falling apart. When he finally spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. Emily. Was she telling the truth back then? Emily felt as if the air had been pulled from the car. She stared through the windshield while Ryan's question echoed in her ears. 5 years disappeared in an instant. She was no longer sitting in the parking lot outside her apartment. She was standing in their old kitchen, holding a pregnancy test with trembling hands. She was watching hope turn into confusion, then confusion into disbelief. Finally, disbelief into silence. Emily. Ryan's voice came through the phone again. She closed her eyes. You remember that day? She asked quietly. Every day. His answer arrived without hesitation. For a moment, neither spoke. The memories were too heavy, too complicated. Back. Then, Emily had told him she was pregnant. Instead of celebration, doubt had entered the room. Questions followed. Questions planted by someone Ryan trusted. A business associate. A woman who had convinced him that the timing did not make sense. That something was wrong. Emily had spent hours trying to explain. Ryan had listened, yet his certainty had faded with every conversation. Trust slowly slipped away. I told you the truth, Emily said softly. I know that now. Those 4 words hit harder than she expected. Not because they brought relief. Because they came years too late. Emily looked into the rearview mirror. Noah was quietly playing with a small toy car, completely unaware that his future was hanging in the balance. Why? Ryan asked. Why did you never tell me? A bitter smile touched her lips. Tell you what? About him. Emily shook her head. The last time we spoke, you made it clear you did not believe me. Ryan said nothing. The silence became its own answer. She continued. When Noah was born, I thought about calling you. Her voice grew softer. More than once. Ryan's breathing became audible on the line. Then why did you not? Emily swallowed hard. The truth still hurt. Because every child deserves to be wanted. I was not going to beg someone to be a father. Ryan's silence stretched longer this time. She could almost picture him sitting somewhere alone, replaying years of decisions. For the first time since their divorce, she wondered if he was finally seeing the damage those decisions had caused. Emily, he said carefully, does Noah know anything about me? She glanced at her son again. No. The answer came immediately. He knows he is loved. That is what matters. Ryan exhaled slowly. It sounded like a man carrying a weight he had only just discovered. I missed everything. Emily did not respond. What could she say? The first steps. The first words. The birthdays. The bedtime stories. The scraped knees. The laughter. The milestones. Ryan had missed them all. Not because he was far away. Because he never knew. Suddenly another voice entered the conversation. Mommy. Noah called from the back seat. Can we go inside now? Emily smiled gently. Of course, sweetheart. Before ending the call, she hesitated. Ryan remained silent, waiting. Finally, she spoke. Good night, Ryan. Emily, please wait. His voice cracked slightly. I need to know one thing. Her hand froze over the screen. What? A long pause followed. Then came the question neither of them could escape anymore. Is Noah my son? The question hung in the air so heavily that Emily could barely breathe. For years she had imagined this moment. Sometimes she pictured anger. Other times she imagined satisfaction. Yet now that it was finally happening, all she felt was exhaustion. She closed her eyes and listened to Noah humming softly in the back seat. That little voice reminded her of every sacrifice, every long shift, every night spent worrying about bills after he had fallen asleep. She had carried those years alone. Emily, Ryan said quietly. Please. She looked up at the dark apartment building in front of her. A few windows glowed warmly against the evening sky. Families were inside eating dinner, helping with homework, sharing ordinary moments. Moments that Noah deserved. Moments Ryan had never seen. Yes, she finally whispered. The silence that followed felt endless. Ryan did not respond right away. She heard only his breathing. Slow at first, then uneven. Yes, she repeated. Noah is your son. Somewhere on the other end of the call, Ryan stopped moving entirely. Emily could almost feel the shock traveling through the phone. 5 years of assumptions had just shattered. Every doubt, every conclusion, every choice, gone in a single sentence. My son, Ryan said at last, almost as if he were testing the words. Emily felt tears gathering in her eyes. Not because she regretted telling him, because she suddenly understood how much time could never be recovered. 3 years, 3 birthdays, thousands of moments. None of them could be repeated. I did not know, Ryan said. His voice sounded smaller than she had ever heard it. I swear to you, Emily, I did not know. She believed him. That was the hardest part. If he had known and walked away, anger would have been easier. Instead, she was forced to confront something far more complicated. Regret. I know, she said softly. Ryan let out a shaky breath. I cannot stop thinking about tonight. Emily remained silent. The formula, he continued. The way he looked at you. The way you were trying to stay strong. His voice broke slightly. You should never have had to do that alone. Emily swallowed hard. For years she had wished to hear those words. Now they arrived too late to erase anything. Life is not always fair, she replied. Ryan did not argue. He knew she was right. Another long silence settled between them. Then he asked the question she had been expecting. Can I see him again? Emily immediately tightened her grip on the phone. There it was. The next step. The dangerous step. Because this was no longer about the past. This was about Noah. Her son had a stable life, even if money was tight. He was happy, protected, loved. She could not allow confusion or disappointment into his world. I do not know, she admitted honestly. Ryan accepted the answer without protest. That surprised her. The old Ryan would have tried to solve the problem immediately. This Ryan sounded different. Humbled, careful, almost afraid. Finally, he spoke again. Then I will wait until you do know. Emily stared ahead, uncertain what to think. As she ended the call and slipped the phone into her purse, she had no idea that Ryan was sitting alone in his penthouse office, staring at a photograph from their wedding day, realizing he had just discovered the greatest loss of his entire life. Ryan barely slept that night. The city skyline stretched beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, glowing with thousands of lights. Usually the view calmed him. Tonight it felt meaningless. He sat alone in the darkness, replaying every second from the grocery store. Emily's tired eyes. The returned formula. Noah standing quietly beside her. His son. The words still felt unreal. Around 3 in the morning, Ryan opened an old storage box he had not touched in years. Inside were pieces of a life he had convinced himself was gone forever. Photographs. Anniversary cards. Vacation souvenirs. Memories he had hidden away because looking at them hurt too much. At the bottom sat a framed picture from their wedding day. Emily was laughing at something he had whispered. The smile on her face was completely genuine. Ryan stared at the photograph for a long time. Then he noticed something he had never fully appreciated before. Trust. She had trusted him completely in that moment. He had been the person she believed would always stand beside her. The realization hit him harder than any business failure he had ever experienced. He had not simply lost a marriage. He had broken the trust of the person who loved him most. The next morning, Ryan arrived at his office earlier than usual. His executive assistant immediately noticed something different. Normally, his schedule was packed with meetings, investors, acquisitions, and conference calls. Today, he seemed distracted, distant. "Are you feeling all right?" she asked carefully. Ryan looked at the stack of reports on his desk. Numbers filled every page. Profits, growth projections, market forecasts. For years, he had measured success through achievements like these. Yet none of them mattered now. "Cancel my afternoon meetings," he said. She blinked in surprise. All of them. Every single one. An hour later, Ryan sat across from a private investigator he had trusted for years. Not because he doubted Emily. Quite the opposite. For the first time, he needed the full truth. Every missing piece. Every detail of the life she had lived after leaving him. The investigator listened quietly before nodding. "I will see what I can find." Ryan expected the process to take weeks. The first report arrived within 2 days. Reading it felt like being punched in the chest over and over again. Emily had worked multiple jobs. Waitress, receptionist, retail clerk, temporary office assistant. She moved apartments 3 times to keep expenses manageable. Medical bills had forced her to empty her savings account shortly after Noah was born. Yet nowhere in the report did he find evidence of complaints. No lawsuits. No requests for help. No attempts to contact him for money. Emily had carried everything herself. Ryan set the report down and stared out the window. A painful thought entered his mind. He remembered the exact amount he had spent on a corporate dinner 6 months earlier. Nearly $20,000. One evening. One event. Meanwhile, the mother of his child had been forced to return baby formula because she could not afford it. The contrast made him feel sick with regret. His phone remained on the desk beside him. He picked it up several times that day. Each time he stopped himself. Emily had every reason not to trust him. He understood that now. Then, late that evening, the investigator called again. "There is something else you should know," he said. Ryan straightened immediately. "What is it?" The answer that followed made his heart stop all over again. Ryan gripped the phone tighter as the investigator continued speaking. 3 years ago, Noah was hospitalized for a serious respiratory infection. He recovered fully, but Emily missed nearly a month of work caring for him. Ryan closed his eyes. Every word felt heavier than the last. The medical expenses created significant debt. According to the records, she sold most of what she owned to keep up with the bills. Ryan looked down at the wedding ring he still kept in his desk drawer. He had not worn it in years, yet he had never thrown it away. Suddenly he understood why. A part of him had never truly let go. The investigator hesitated before adding one final detail. There is something else. During that time, several organizations offered financial assistance. She declined most of it. Ryan frowned. Why? According to one application note, she wrote that there were families in greater need than hers. The call ended a few moments later. Ryan remained frozen in his chair. He could not stop thinking about that sentence. Emily had struggled to buy necessities. She had faced overwhelming challenges. Yet she still thought about helping others first. The realization made his chest ache. He understood now that the woman he once loved had never changed. The only thing that changed had been his ability to see clearly. 2 days later, Ryan stood outside a small neighborhood park. Children laughed on the playground. Parents sat on benches nearby. The setting felt unfamiliar compared to boardrooms and corporate events. Yet he could not bring himself to leave. Across the park, he spotted Emily sitting beneath a large oak tree. Noah was chasing bubbles blown by another child. His laughter carried across the grass. Ryan had watched countless presentations in packed auditoriums without feeling nervous. Now his hands would not stop shaking. Emily noticed him almost immediately. Her expression tightened. Not angry, guarded. Ryan walked slowly toward her. "I hope it is okay that I came." Emily folded her arms. "How did you find us?" "I asked around." She sighed. "Ryan." The disappointment in her voice stopped him before he could continue. He nodded. You are right. I should have called first. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Noah spotted him. The little boy jogged over with a curious smile. It is you again. Ryan felt his heart twist. Such a simple sentence. Yet hearing his son recognize him felt like a gift he did not deserve. Hi, Noah. The boy looked at him carefully. Do I know you? Ryan glanced at Emily. She remained silent. This was her decision. Her boundary. He would respect it. So he crouched slightly and smiled. Not yet. Noah seemed satisfied with the answer. Moments later, he ran back toward the playground. Ryan watched him disappear among the swings and slides. Every instinct pushed him to say more, to explain everything, to claim the years he had lost. Instead, he forced himself to stay patient. Finally, he turned back to Emily. I am not here to ask for forgiveness. Emily looked surprised. Ryan continued. I have not earned that. The honesty caught her off guard. Then why are you here? He looked toward Noah again. Because whether you ever forgive me or not, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that I should have believed you from the beginning. Emily stared at him for several long seconds. Before she could answer, Noah's excited voice echoed across the park. Mommy, come look at this. Emily turned toward her son. Ryan followed her gaze. Neither of them noticed the small drawing Noah was running toward them with, a drawing that was about to change everything. Noah came running across the grass with a sheet of paper held high. Above his head, his face glowed with excitement. Look what I made, he shouted. Emily smiled immediately. Ryan found himself smiling too. Noah stopped in front of them and proudly handed over the drawing. It was simple, the kind of picture only a young child could create. 3 stick figures stood beneath a bright yellow sun. One was clearly Noah. Another was Emily. The third figure stood beside them, taller than the others. Ryan looked closer. Above the tallest figure, Noah had carefully written a single word in uneven letters. Friend. Something tightened in Ryan's chest. Emily noticed it too. For a moment, neither adult spoke. Noah pointed at the drawing. That is Mommy. That is me. That is him. He pointed directly at Ryan. He looked lonely. Ryan blinked several times. Of all the things he expected to hear, that was not one of them. Children saw the world differently. They noticed emotions without needing explanations. Noah simply saw a man standing alone. Emily looked down at her son, then back at Ryan. For the first time since their unexpected reunion, some of the tension in her expression softened. Not completely, just enough to let a small amount of light through. Over the following weeks, Ryan kept his promise. He did not try to buy forgiveness. He did not overwhelm Emily with gifts. He did not attempt to force his way into Noah's life. Instead, he showed up. Consistently. Quietly. Respectfully. Sometimes he joined them at the park. Sometimes he attended Noah's preschool events when invited. Other times he simply listened. For a man accustomed to solving problems with resources and influence, patience became his greatest challenge. Yet he never stopped trying. Noah gradually became comfortable around him. Their conversations started small. Favorite cartoons, toy cars, ice cream flavors. Then came longer talks. Laughter followed. Shared memories slowly began forming where none had existed before. Emily watched everything carefully. Trust did not return overnight. Some wounds required time. Others required proof. Ryan understood that. Every day, he chose actions over promises. One evening, several months later, the 3 of them sat together on a park bench while the sun dipped below the horizon. Noah had fallen asleep against Emily's shoulder after an afternoon of playing. The world seemed unusually peaceful. Ryan looked at his son and smiled. Then he turned toward Emily. Thank you, he said quietly. She raised an eyebrow. For what? Ryan glanced at Noah. For raising an incredible little boy. Emotion flickered across Emily's face. He makes that part easy. Ryan nodded. Then he looked directly at her. You did not. Emily laughed softly. No, I guess I did not. For a moment, they simply sat together, watching the fading light. Years earlier, they had lost each other because doubt had spoken louder than trust. Now they understood something neither had fully appreciated before. Love was not proven through grand gestures. It was proven through showing up when it mattered most. Ryan reached for Noah's small backpack resting beside the bench. Emily stood, adjusting her sleeping son in her arms. Then, without thinking, Ryan stepped forward to help. This time, she did not pull away. Together they walked toward the parking lot, not as strangers haunted by the past, but as 2 people finally learning how to build a future that should have begun years ago.